Hi everyone, it's Fred again from Notes of a Nomad, video number 322. I've got a question for you. Where do you think is the largest coastal temperate rainforest located in the world? It could be in Tasmania or New Zealand or in South America, like in Argentina or in Chile, or maybe in China or in Asia, perhaps North America. Well, I just discovered it's where I live. It's the Great Bear Rainforest in British Columbia. It's on the coast, and I've been through it 2 years ago when I was traveling around British Columbia and I ended up in the Arctic. I traveled through it in some parts. Quite amazing. And why do I all have suddenly discovered? Well, a fellow wrote a book and he was being interviewed, and I then said, wow, look at that. I now know a little bit more about the Great Bear Rainforest, and perhaps you might find it of interest. So I'll share my screen, show you where it's located, and there it is on the coast. And it covers over 6.4 million hectares, which can be considered as large the size of Ireland, or 32,000 square kilometers. Now, here's a map that shows you some of the roads. This road number 20 going to Bella Coola, which I hope you can see, I'm trying to highlight it, is where I went. So I was in the Great Bear Rainforest. And then also Prince Rupert, where I also went. Now, to get here, you'll notice there's no other roads. You can get into Bella Coola and you have to go inland, and then you go back to the coast further north to Prince Rupert and Terrace. There's very few roads in this area, so you have to go by boat because there's a lot of fjords going in there, or float plane. Those are the two main ways of getting there. Can't drive many places in this spectacular part of the world. And this is similar to what it looked like in Bella Coola when I was there. So it is a spectacular part of the world, and it contains a lot of interesting, well, animals and trees, etc. This is known as the spirit bear. And there's only about 50, maybe up to 100 of them in this area. So it's really a black bear, but it's sort of mutated and has white. It's not albino, but it has a genetic change, and there's not that many of them. But there's cougars and whales and salmon and grizzly bears and thousand-year-old trees, Sitka spruce and red cedar. It's an amazing part of the world. So there's pictures of the spirit bear, as it's called. And a lot of that was from this book that this fellow, Jack Plant, who's a British fellow, but he lives in Canada, and he has done a lot and spent many years in the Great Bear Rainforest. And he was being interviewed. And that's when I discovered, wow, I've been there. I didn't even know about it. And he lives in British Columbia now. But it was a fascinating interview. And he wrote this book, and that's why I guess he was being interviewed. He has, a lot of, it's mainly pictures, I believe. And here's a couple pages from the book, The Spirit of the Great Bear by Jack Plant. It's just coming out. Pretty expensive book. But, and he talks about some of his experiences and his stories of some of the First Nations people that he met there. And they taught him a lot about that part of the world. He said coming from the UK, he'd never seen, it couldn't have thought there could be such a big area, remote and pristine in many ways. Because obviously, if it's the size of Ireland, You don't find many places like that in the United Kingdom where he came from. So here's one of the pages of the book showing where I live on Vancouver Island. And here's the Great Bear Rainforest. Now, I would highly recommend, if you find any interest in it, I will put a link to this video about the Great Bear Rainforest. It's just a trailer. It's only 1 minute, 54 seconds long. I'll put a link in it, but it'll show you some of the geography and the type of area that you're talking about, very remote communities, but I think you would find it of interest as I have. And the one other thing that I discovered is about this Spirit Bear Lodge in Klemtu. It's a very remote community. Only 400 people live there, but this lodge is fascinating. And in the next video, I'll share some of my learnings about this because I think there's a lot of lessons about this lodge for the First Nations and how they're conducting their, ecotourism. So with that, I'd like to at least say, wow, I've discovered there's a place called the Great Bear Rainforest, which is the largest coastal temperate rainforest in the world. And if you look it up, you'll find some fascinating facts about this part of the world that I live in British Columbia. So next week, I'll talk about the Spirit Bear Lodge in Klemtu. It's very remote. Only about 400 people live in this little town, but this lodge has some very interesting aspects to it, which I think you might find interesting because I found it fascinating. So with that, I'll say adios, au revoir, wishing you, your family, and friends lots of love and laughter. Until next time, bye for now from Fred and Notes of a Nomad.